Okay. So, what's the name of the cells that give rise to your sperm and eggs? Germline. Okay. Okay. So, what causes cancer cells to divide when they shouldn't? What are some of the um, huh? Oh, tumor suppression. Yep. When they invade surrounding tissue, what is that caused by?
Loss of acreage dependence.
Huh?
Loss of acreage dependence.
That's the other one. One before that. Contact inhibition. Then, oh, look at that. It's all, oh, I guess it's, actually, this should be, cell cycle control. Okay, for the first one. Okay. So, radiation therapy would be least effective against what kind? C. So, in other words, to the tumor suppressor system, if you can't get that part of the system to actually cause cells to discombobulate, then you damage them with radiation and they're still there. And in fact, that actually can cause new cancers. Why is it good to take multiple biopsies from a single tumor? Because unregulated cell division leads to increased genetic diversity, because a given drug may be effective against only one part of the tumor, because tumor evolution can occur, or all of these? Yeah. Okay, so we're going to review. So G1, that's where most of a cell's life is. S phase is where you copy all the DNA, synthesize a copy of everything. G2, getting prepared for mitosis, and then mitosis is prophase, metaphase, anaphase, and teleophase. Okay, now, there are lots of organisms that don't do sexual reproduction. So they don't do something, they do mitosis, but they don't do meiosis. Actually right here, you actually have cells, bacterial cells, that are actually exchanging genetic material. That's called conjugation. So it's kind of like sex. Basically, it would be like if you had sex and then suddenly the person you had sex with, you had all their genes as well as yours, and it would change your phenotype. Now, there's also organisms that are eukaryotic, multicellular, like this planaria, and you can cut those things up and they'll regenerate everything. So they regenerate by mitosis. And then there's these single-celled parasites that make copies of themselves by mitosis, and so you have a whole bunch of them. Offspring are genetically identical. Okay. So what's the name of the cells that don't give rise to sperm and eggs? Okay, so if I ask you a question, let's say on the exam, you got a mutation in some kidney cells, resulted in cancer. True or false, you can pass that on to your offspring. That would be false, right? Kidneys are not part of the germ line. Germ lines are ovaries, testes, right? Okay. Okay, some vocabulary. Now, all of our cells, all of our somatic cells are diploid. 2. And it means that you have a copy of all the chromosomes from your mother and another whole copy from your father. And so you have these homologative chromosomes. Homology, if you remember, means same. So these are the same chromosomes, right? Except that's mom, that's dad. They have the same genes on them, but they might have different alleles. So you might be homozygous for the same versions of a gene or between both parents, or you might be heterozygous, which means that you have one copy of an allele and then a different copy from your other parent. Okay. These are non-homologous chromosomes, obviously. This is called a karyotype. And it shows all the different human chromosomes. And 22 of them are homologous. The 23rd are the sex chromosomes, and females have an X, have actually 2 X's, and a male has an X and a Y. Oh, good. Okay. Now, so we have 23 chromosomes, but we have 23 pairs. So in total, we have 46. One from mom, one set, and one set from dad. Okay. If you remember, when you have both sets, you're diploid. Now, it turns out with a sperm and egg, they're not diploid. You, with your sperm and eggs, you get predominantly a chromosome from your father or your mother, and there's some crossing over, we'll get into that. But it's haploid. That means you only have one set of the chromosomes, 23 chromosomes, instead of the full double complement of 46. Meiosis, which is the creation of gametes, haploid gametes, happens in the germline. They're haploid. And then when you get two germline cells that come together, a sperm fertilizing an egg, you restore the diploid condition. So this egg, fertilized egg, will now have a full complement of 46. A set from mom and a set from dad. But the gametes that they produced were only haploid. They had one set of chromosomes. Okay. How would you design meiosis? Well, first of all, it starts like mitosis, and it's actually, it's obviously kind of related to it. In fact, it kind of piggybacked on mitosis when you had a multicellular organism, and there was sexual reproduction, right? So when that happened, there had to be some changes, but it pretty much followed much of the same pattern. Okay. Mitosis on the left, meiosis on the right. Okay. In both cases, remember, there's double the amount of chromosomes. There's a complete extra copy. Now, this chromosome duplication, you end up then with these tetrads of homologous chromosomes, two pairs for each mom and two pairs for each dad. And then something happens called crossing over, where they exchange some genes. And then during metaphase, the same sort of thing happens. Metaphase 1, that's prophase 1. And then anaphase and teleophase, you end up with two daughter cells, right? Well, you have these homologous chromosomes with crossing over. In other words, they've exchanged mamas and papas at that spot. So in this case, you just have homologous chromosomes, and one goes to each side. Here you have this tetrad. And then during anaphase and teleophase, they separate. And then we'll eventually get to meiosis 2. They go through the same thing. Now remember, you now got, these are each double chromosomes, right? Two copies. From mom and two copies from dad. And when you actually go through meiosis, you end up with gametes that only have, they're haploid. They either have, in this case, a chromosome that's primarily from dad with some crossing over, or mom. The fact that you get more from mom compared to dad doesn't have anything to do with what sex you are. Sex is strictly because of the sex chromosomes. So if you get two X's, you're mom. And you can get that because your dad has an X and a Y. You can donate the X, and the mom obviously donates an X. You have two X's, that's a female. And then XY is a male. Okay. Okay, one special cell division inserted here, and it's like mitosis. We'll go through it more likely. I'll put kind of a dedicated little lecture on Moodle that'll take us through meiosis, and then also a video of it. Okay. So it starts like mitosis, that's meiosis 1, and then it ends with another like mitosis again, meiosis 2. Except that meiosis 1, there's an extra little cell division and inserted in a certain place. Okay. Okay. Meiosis occurs in germline or somatic cells, which, huh? Germline, right. And produces haploid or diploid gametes. The fertilized egg is called the, okay. And then that fertilized egg is, what is it? Right. Okay. Why do we have sex? It's because it feels good. That's pretty much it. Everything else about it, we don't really care that much. Mainly, we just like it. So, you get one of each pair. Which one you get from your father or your mother, which one is donated to your offspring, is random, right? So you have one copy from your mom and one copy from your dad, and your gametes are going to get one of those copies, not both, because they're haploid. And so it's pretty much random which copy you get, the one from your mom, the one from your dad. That's why some people look more like one parent than another, right? And share many of the same features versus the others. Sometimes, same thing with siblings. Now, sexual reproduction. So here's the deal. We went a little bit into this a long time ago about evolution, but if an organism were to live in a really stable environment that doesn't change, and all its genes were kind of, selection worked on them for that environment, it wouldn't, having sex, in other words, recombining genomes with mothers and fathers, you would lose some well-adapted gene complexes and genes. And so having sexual reproduction in such an environment is not, it's not a good idea, because you've already very, very well adapted to that environment. However, if you're in an environment that has changed, it's much easier for gene variants, because of what's called recombination, to spread, that are gene variants that might not have been adaptive in the past but are now, right, to spread through the population. So like the lactase mutation. It was under strong selection. Before, if you had it without a dairying culture, it might arise, but it'd be a maladaptive trait, and it would disappear from that one individual. They wouldn't leave any offspring. But when you have dairying and you can actually drink milk, then if a mutation like that arises, it'll spread much more quickly through the population through sex than it would by just making a copy and cloning a copy over and over and over again. Okay? So then there's also something called independent assortment. And because of this assortment in terms of crossing over and which chromosome you get, the one from your mom or the one from your dad, which is random, you have all these different combinations of kinds of different gametes. And you have a lot of diversity. And that's why sexual reproduction is oftentimes been favored instead of clonal reproduction, where asexual, where you just produce an exact copy of yourself. We'll call it there.